Never have, Adam. I feel so blessed, and I pray, and when I pray, I thank the Lord that He's let me live to see great grandchildren. I never thought I would. I didn't. I thought that, back in my time, people died younger than they do now. And I thought when anybody was 50, they was just, old. And so I feel so blessed to have all these great grandchildren. And people can't hardly believe when I tell them how many I've got. And I've about lost count. I think I've got 8 and 2 more now on the way. Well, I was born in 1932, so that's been quite a while, and I was born in Callaway County.
August 28th, 1938.
And where were you?
I was born in Murray, Kentucky.
41.
1950.
1950.
1960
Where at?
in Murray, Kentucky.
1967.
So what year were you born?
1969. I
What
feel like maybe I should have been born in 49 and been at Woodstock, maybe.
October 6, 1974.
February 23rd, 1998.
January 26, 2005.
I'm going to soccer later.
You're going to soccer later?
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old, I started to school, and schoolhouse was burned, and then Coldwater. And so I went to school in the Church of Christ Church at Coldwater, which was very interesting for 1 year. And after that, they got the new school built. And in 37, I can remember the flood in Paducah. Flooded all the town of Paducah, and they brought people to Coldwater in the schools to stay so they could get back to their homes.
I get up and go to school every day. Usually the busiest part of my day happens after 3. I'm going to sporting events, practices, academic team matches.
Well, like growing up in the country, my world was little. I mean, we just was the county schools, and like I didn't even realize till I was a teenager that there was movie theaters in town and all that kind of stuff till you got to Dayton and going to town.
I would definitely think technology plays a huge part in kids' life today, and not so much when I was younger. I really never remember sitting inside playing on any electronics. And the kids I babysit now each have an iPad. They have Xbox, PS4, Roku, which comes with Netflix, Hulu, all of that stuff. So I feel like they even watch videos of other children playing things instead of playing it themselves.
I had a good mother and daddy and a nice house to live in.
Wow, where do I begin? Things were so much simpler. I was at remote control back then to the television.
I run cross country and track, and I do competitive archery. I'm part of the Lakers for Christ Council at school, student council.
Kids would think this was terrible now. We would take an egg Mama would give us the egg, and we would carry that egg down to a Mr. Cook's store, and he'd give us a sack full of broken up stick candy for that egg. So it was probably all rotten time we got through with it.
How has life changed for your kids? Because you have relatively young children compared to when you grew up and how life was like then.
Well, a lot of the things are the same. We both have grown up in middle class. I grew up in a middle class home, and my children, my two girls, have grown up in a middle class home. But the things that they have and they do are different than what I had when I was growing up.
Well, it's been I won't say a drastic change, but it was more relaxed and more laid back because we didn't have the things available to us that the generations today do.
As far as growing up, I can tell a difference in respect, mostly, with the way nowadays, when I was raised, it was just a given. You respect your elders, you respect adults, you respect your parents, you don't backtalk, you don't question them.
How has life changed since you were a kid?
Oh my goodness. Technology just happened really fast. I graduated high school in '87, and we had one in the library. We just got computers, and we had one class.
Well, I can remember when we got the first radio we had, and we had a battery. And the battery would go down then, that we couldn't hear anything. And we'd listen to the Grand Ole Opry. That was the grandest thing, and if we could hear the Grand Ole Opry.
I think technology causes all of the differences, I guess, between when I was younger and today.
Playing with our toys, we made our own cities and farms and things of that nature. And then when we weren't doing that, we had a basketball goal on a tree out behind my cousin's house, and we would play basketball out there, 1-on-1 or sometimes 2-on-1, depending on how things worked out for that particular day.
There was no electricity and cold water for years. I don't know exactly when, but probably around when I was 10-year-old before we got electric. And of course we didn't have the water. But everybody has everything today. They don't realize how important having the running water and all that. And we never had that. We had a cistern. We had to have water hauled into that.
Well, there's been a lot of things that I didn't have, but I had a good mother and daddy.
Do you ever feel like it was better back then? Or do you just feel like
it was more simple? It was a lot less complicated.
Yeah.
You know, we ran around barefooted all summer and rode our bicycles up and down the gravel road, and we worked, and it was just a simple life. Everything now seems like it's a lot faster and more complicated.
Later on, I just can't think. Because I went and married really young. And I shouldn't have, but I did. Married when I was 14. And we didn't have anything. We did that. There was electric, so we had that.
And now the kids just have so much in front of them that they can deal with and have so much technology in front of them.
Do you think that there's a different view on the way kids are raised in general, the way parenting is done?
Yes and no. Yes, because there has to be change from the times of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s till now, because of the things that are available for parents and their children compared to what we grew up with.
That's kind of a trick question because I think some things are for the better, like the medical field and people living longer because of the research done to, you know, cure illnesses and everything. But I think some things are for the worse. I think technology has helped in lots of ways, but it's also ruined a lot of things. I'm a school teacher, and I see the kids' attention spans have decreased tremendously over the 22 years I've been teaching.
So there wasn't, well, the World Wide Web, I think, could be surfed in less than an hour, probably then. So, and you couldn't do it in a lifetime now.
I can remember how some of the kids brought their lunch in paper bag or something, whatever they had, lunchbox. And I thought, oh, that'd be great to get to carry your lunch to school. So I would beg Mama to fix me something and let me carry my lunch so that I could be with the others. And but compared to what today, kids don't realize how good they have it. They think they don't, but they have a good, everything's good for them. And there's just so many things different now that I can't. Of course, in 75, 85 years or so, a lot has happened that I can never think about things that they have now. But,
So do you remember when Kennedy was assassinated?
Yes, I was in the 8th grade at New Concord.
Kind of tell me what you felt that day and what you.
It was just shock, really, and everybody was just in shock and couldn't believe that that had happened to our president.
What was the feeling like in the country when that happened?
Just of shock and not really believing that it could happen in America, even though we had assassination attempts in the past. But I don't know, it was just, I was working at General Tire at the time in Mayfield, Kentucky, on the Union Negotiating Committee, and we were having a grievance meeting that morning. I had finished my afternoon, or my midnight shift, and as we was in the meeting, the representative for General Tire had been called out of the room. When he came back, he said, "Friends, this meeting is over." He said, "The president's just been shot."
Do you remember when Kennedy was assassinated?
Yeah.
Do you remember how you felt when you learned what happened?
It was sorrow. Really sorrow.
oh, I can remember that so well. It was about lunchtime. We lived on the lake, and that came on, and it was really a, I don't know, I can't hardly describe the feeling that you had. It was just like part of your family or something had been, something happened to them. And it was just terrible, terrible, terrible thing that happened.
And we broke up the meeting, and as I went to my car and was leaving the parking lot and the access road at the plant, when I heard it on the radio that he had actually died.
Did you remember the Iran hostages?
Yes.
At all?
Oh my gosh, yes, because that was what, 78 or 9, and so I grew up at East White Grocery, and I remember that being the topic of conversation with all of the regulars that would come in there. And I even remember making a poster board, something about Iran, and I didn't know what I was actually doing, but because of all the conversation and about the hostages, wasn't Jimmy Carter? He was president then, wasn't he? Yeah, I do remember that. That's what I remember. Just all of the grown-ups and their conversation about it, and the newspapers and making those posters, free the hostages. What was that? There was some kind of motto or logo or something that I was stenciling. Back then we used stencils. But
minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Let's see, what year was that?
86.
86. It was a year after I'd graduated, so I don't know, we were all in amazement of this being successful, and then for it to just go away in a split second, it just kind of shocked us all, and we didn't really know how to feel about it, except for the lives that were lost.
Oh, I was actually home from work sick and sitting on the couch and watched it happen live. And I remember calling the office and saying, guys, the space shuttle just blew up. And they're like, oh, Sherry, are you running a high fever or what? And I'm like, no, it was real. So that was like one of those wow moments that just shocked everybody.
What were the feelings that you remember from watching that happen?
Just a sense of loss, knowing that these people had trained so hard, so long to do what they were doing, and that something like this could happen on liftoff. We more or less had accepted the fact that once it went into orbit, anything could happen, and especially on re-entry. But none of us really expected anything to happen that soon after liftoff.
So how would you compare the Challenger to 9/11? The way you felt.
Oh, well, I was so much more mature when 9/11 happened, and I was probably more into watching the news and keeping up with what was happening in the world than when the Challenger happened. But I think when the Challenger happened, it was more of a I don't know. I don't want to say it was more sympathy felt for the families, because there was a smaller amount of people, so you got to see each individual person more on a personal basis, because there wasn't as many. I mean, with 9/11, there were 3,000 plus people, so it was very hard for that to to connect with that on a personal level.
How would you compare that feeling to 9/11?
Very small. Mostly because how personal 9/11 felt. Because it was an attack on our nation. This was just an accident when the Challenger went up. So I remember when I got home on 9/11, I'd been at work all day, and nobody was at home when I got there. I'd worked a 12-hour shift at Wycliffe Paper Mill, and I'd heard on the radio was all I'd heard. I hadn't seen any pictures. And as soon as I walked in the house, I turned the television on, and 2 hours later, I was still standing in the living room watching scenes of it on television.
Do you remember where you were when 9/11 happened?
Yes, I was driving. I took you all to school, and I heard it on the radio in the car on the way home. And then as soon as I got home, I turned on the TV, and it felt like it was watching a sci-fi movie or something. I mean, it was crazy.
I was at work. I was at the judicial building. It was panic, mostly. Just an unsettled feeling of panic, and one thing came, the process of 9/11, with the way that the events took place, it was just like what was going to be next, what's coming next, and then just the aftermath of just the panic and then anger.
That was like the Challenger blowing up, that was like a shock, but you had always suspected that could happen, because you're talking about sending a rocket ship into space, and it's something mechanical or, engineered that can go wrong. But 9/11, I remember that day too. I was, teaching a group of third grade kids, and our principal came down the hall and called a group of us out in the hall and told us what had happened. And that was just like total devastation, because it's like, how could that happen in our country? I think it affected, and it was so many people and such, a big thing.
I had a different feeling when the president was killed. I think that was the most tragic thing that I could remember. And this was too. 9/11 was bad because it took so many people. And knowing that we were going, that the world was in that kind of situation, that they would come over here and kill, people.
Just a basically unbelief that something like this could happen. We had never experienced a plane being flown into a large building. Sure, there had been accidents, but nothing of this magnitude. And then as the day developed and the fire began to destroy the building itself, and then the collapse came, to me, having a little bit of engineering background, more in high school, or not high school, but highway engineering, but still some structural, and just unbelief that a building that was designed to reach that height could actually be destroyed from within.
Did you ever think you would, one, live to see great grandkids? Did you ever think about it at all?
Well, really, I never thought about it. But, here in recent years, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm getting a lot older, and here's my daughter is, she had her kids, and that was all cool. We were all young back then. And now I have great grandkids, and I'm getting old. And I think about at 68, your life's way over, half over. You better start making the best of it, or the most of it.
Well, the number one lesson or the number one thing you learned from your parents?
To always care about others. Unconditional love is top priority in my life because of them.
I would say, kind of like Tim McGraw's song, humble and kind. Think less of yourself and put others before your own interest, and be kind and be compassionate towards others and human beings.
What would you, if you could go into the future, what piece of advice would you give your grandkids?
To always stay humble and kind, and to think of the consequences of every action, and that also to be generous with their time, their love, and their money.
Okay, well, my dad specifically has always told my sister and I two things: to always be generous, so to always give to others, and then to always think of the consequences, good and bad. And I use that every single day of my life. And I think that really lays into every aspect of your life. If you're generous and you think about the outcome of decisions before you make them, then that'll really take you a long way in life.
Love God and love your family. And keep it simple.
Don't get in a hurry.
Mom always tells me to be humble, and everything I do, always be humble. And when you walk into a room, don't ever think you're the smartest person in the room. There's always somebody who's better than you. It's something in the room. And those are two big things. And just to love everybody all the time.
You missed your chance. Don't get in a hurry.
Family counts. You need to make that bond within a family, that everybody in the family loves each other, they respect each other, and that they can respect their parents even though they might disagree with them on the way they feel like they're being taught the lessons that they need to be taught. But it's just hard to explain how you want your great-grandkids to do, but to always remember that family does come first.
I'm 85 years old, and about 2012, I went to Florida to spend the winter with my son, and he started me playing golf. I was 79, and I never played a bit of golf, and I said, well, I didn't know about if I would like it or not, but anyway, I started, and I loved it, and every winter I would go down to and stay with him. 3 years ago, I had a hole-in-one when I was 82, and I was so thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I had to go up there and look in the hole to see the balls and to be for sure that they wasn't kidding me. I thought my friends were with me, and they said, "Oh, that ball went in." I said, "Y'all just kidding me," and I went up there to see. And of course, I just love golf, but I haven't got to play much lately. But I would love to. But anyway, don't give up if you want to play golf. If you're 80, go right ahead.